I used to call him boring. I craved excitement, danger, something different. He was steady, predictable, always on time, always caring, and I hated it. So I pushed him away. I told him I wanted more. Now every night I lie awake, replaying every moment, his warmth, his unwavering love. Because the man I thought was boring was the only real thing I ever had, and I let him go. From the moment I met Ethan, I knew he was the kind of man who would never break my heart. He was dependable, kind, and always put me first. While my friends were chasing bad boys who left them crying at 2 a.m., I had a boyfriend who showed up on time, remembered my coffee order, and sent good morning texts every single day. At first, I felt lucky. My past relationships had been chaotic, full of games and uncertainty. But with Ethan, there was no drama, just quiet, steady love. He made me feel safe, cherished, and adored. We had our routines. Friday night dinners at our favorite Italian restaurant, lazy Sunday mornings with coffee and movies, long drives where he'd let me play my favorite songs even if he didn't like them. He never forgot an anniversary, never made me doubt his feelings. But somewhere along the way, that security started to feel stifling. While my friends gushed about whirlwind romances and passionate fights followed by dramatic makeups, my relationship felt too easy, too predictable. I convinced myself that love was supposed to be exciting, not comfortable. I began to resent the way he always texted, "Be safe." When I went out, the way he never argued back when I picked a fight over nothing, the way he never surprised me with something wild. I wanted passion. I wanted unpredictability. And I convinced myself that he was the reason I wasn't happy. One night, after yet another date night that felt exactly like the last 10, I finally blurted it out. "You're so boring, Ethan. So predictable. I feel like I know exactly how the rest of my life is going to go, and it's not enough for me." He looked hurt but didn't argue. He never did. He just nodded, took a deep breath, and said, "If that's how you feel, I won't stop you." A week later, we were over. I walked away feeling like I had just freed myself from a cage. I was convinced I had made the right decision. I had no idea that in losing him, I had just lost everything. At first, I felt liberated. Single life was exactly what I thought I wanted: spontaneous nights out, meeting new people, the thrill of the unknown. I went on dates with guys who were nothing like Ethan. They were exciting, unpredictable, and full of surprises. The first few weeks were exhilarating. I was finally living the life I thought I had been missing. But slowly, cracks started to form in my perfect little fantasy. The guys I was dating, they were fun, sure, but they never called when they said they would. They made grand, impulsive gestures, but they also forgot simple things, like how I hated olives or that I had an important meeting the next day. They were passionate, but they were inconsistent. One day, they would shower me with attention, and the next, I'd be staring at my phone, wondering why I hadn't heard from them. I found myself reminiscing about Ethan more and more. Ethan, who never made me feel like I had to guess how he felt. Ethan, who would have driven across town at midnight just to bring me soup when I was sick. Ethan, who never left me wondering where I stood in his life. I told myself I wasn't regretting my decision, I was just adjusting. But deep down, a quiet panic was starting to build. Then one night, I ran into him. It had been almost 2 months since the breakup. I was out with my friends, laughing a little too loudly, pretending I was fine. And then I saw him, sitting at a dimly lit table in the corner of the restaurant, a woman across from him. She was smiling at him the way I used to. And worse, he was smiling back. Something sharp and ugly twisted inside me. I had no right to feel jealous. I had been the one who left. I had been the one who said he was boring. But in that moment, I felt a wave of regret so strong it nearly knocked the breath out of me. I tried to tell myself it didn't mean anything. But later that night, alone in my apartment, I found myself scrolling through our old messages, rereading conversations that once felt too predictable, but now felt like home. I typed out a message, just a simple "Hey, how have you been?" But before I could press send, 3 little dots appeared on the screen. He was texting me first, and my heart nearly stopped. I stared at the screen, my heart racing as I watched the 3 little dots blink in and out of existence. Was he really about to text me, after all this time? Then, just like that, they disappeared. No message. I waited, staring at my phone like an idiot, willing the dots to come back for a message, any message to appear. But nothing. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. I felt a strange mix of emotions: disappointment, hope, frustration. Had he changed his mind? Had he thought better of reaching out? Or was he just as hesitant as I was? I put my phone down, trying to shake off the feelings swirling inside me. But they didn't go away. In the days that followed, I became obsessed with checking his social media. Every time he posted something, I analyzed it, trying to figure out if he was happy, if he had moved on. And then, one night, after 2 glasses of wine and way too much overthinking, I gave in. "Hey, I know it's been a while. How have you been?" I regretted it instantly. My finger hovered over the screen, my pulse pounding in my ears. I debated deleting it, but before I could, the little seen indicator popped up. And then a response. "Ethan, hey, I'm doing well, hope you're good too." Short, polite, distant. I should have left it at that, but I couldn't. "I saw you the other night." A pause, then another response. "Ethan, yeah, I saw you too." Something about his answer made my chest tighten. I had expected more, had hoped for more, but he wasn't giving me anything. Desperation clawed at me. I wasn't used to this version of Ethan. He was always the one who reassured me, the one who made things easy. But now he felt like a stranger. And I hated it. I took a deep breath and typed again. "I miss you." This time he didn't respond right away. Minutes passed, then hours. I fell asleep with my phone clutched in my hand, my mind replaying every memory, every moment I had taken for granted. The next morning, his reply was waiting for me. "Ethan, you didn't miss me when you left." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to argue, to tell him that wasn't true, that I had been stupid, selfish, blind. But how could I expect him to believe me when I had been the one to walk away? For the first time, I realized something terrifying. I had lost him, and I wasn't sure if I could ever get him back. I stared at Ethan's message, my chest tightening with something I wasn't ready to name. Guilt, regret, maybe even heartbreak. I had spent weeks convincing myself that reaching out was the right thing to do, that maybe, just maybe, he was missing me too. But his words told me everything I had been too afraid to admit. "You didn't miss me when you left." He was right. At least, that's how it must have looked to him. I had been so caught up in chasing excitement, in wanting something more, that I had never stopped to think about what I was throwing away. I had been selfish, and now, for the first time, I wasn't the one in control. I didn't reply right away. I didn't know how to. But the thought of just letting it go, of letting him go, was unbearable. So, I typed out the only thing I could think of. I was wrong, Ethan. I see that now." This time, he didn't reply. Minutes passed, then an hour, then 2. I told myself I wouldn't check his social media, but I did. And when I saw the picture, my stomach dropped. It was him, with her. The same woman from the restaurant. The same one who had smiled at him the way I used to. Only now, she was holding his hand. The caption was simple. "Happiness is finding someone who sees your worth." I felt sick because I knew what that meant. It meant she saw the things I had taken for granted. It meant she didn't think he was boring. It meant she had stepped into the space I had left empty. And worst of all, it meant Ethan had moved on. The truth hit me harder than I ever expected. I had spent so much time looking for something better, something exciting, that I had never stopped to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. Ethan's predictability wasn't boring. It was stability. His kindness wasn't routine. It was love. His consistency wasn't suffocating. It was security. And I had thrown it all away. Tears blurred my vision as I stared at the screen, my fingers itching to text him, to tell him that I understood now, that I finally saw what I had lost. But I didn't. Because deep down, I knew it was too late. I had called him boring and predictable. Now, I'd give anything to have that stability back. But some mistakes can't be undone. Days passed, then weeks, and the weight of my regret only grew heavier. I had thought time would dull the ache, that maybe I'd wake up one morning and feel okay again. But every day, I found myself missing Ethan more. I missed the way he always texted good morning. I missed the way he instinctively reached for my hand when we crossed the street. I missed the way he always made sure I got home safe, even when we weren't together. But most of all, I missed the way he loved me, fully, unconditionally, without hesitation. And I had let it slip through my fingers. I tried to move on, to push myself back into the dating world, but nothing felt right. The guys I went out with were fun, spontaneous, full of surprises, but they never made me feel the way Ethan did. One night, after another disappointing date, I found myself sitting alone in my apartment, scrolling through our old messages again. My fingers hovered over his name. I knew I shouldn't text him. I knew it wouldn't change anything. But I had to try. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I just need you to know I was wrong. I thought I wanted excitement. I thought I wanted something more. But the truth is, you were everything I needed, and I was too blind to see it. I hit send before I could talk myself out of it. Then I waited. And waited. An hour passed, then another. Finally, my phone buzzed. My heart jumped as I grabbed it, but when I opened the message, I felt it shatter all over again. Ethan, I appreciate you saying that. I really do, but I've moved on, and you should too. It was like a punch to the gut, a final, undeniable truth. There was no fixing this, no going back. I had lost him. And the worst part, I had no one to blame but myself. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg him to give me another chance. But I didn't, because I knew that wouldn't be fair to him or to me. So I did the only thing I could do. I put my phone down, wiped away my tears, and forced myself to face the truth. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some people, once lost, can never be reclaimed. And sometimes, you don't realize the value of stability until you've lost it forever. It's been months since that last conversation with Ethan. I wish I could say I've moved on, that I've found peace with my choices. But the truth is, some lessons don't come with happy endings. Some mistakes stay with you forever. I used to think love was supposed to be wild, full of passion, unpredictability, and drama. I thought stability was boring. I thought consistency meant settling. But now I understand. Love isn't about the grand gestures. It's not about heated arguments and dramatic makeups. It's not about chasing something new just because it feels exciting. It's about knowing someone will be there every single day. It's about the quiet moments, the unwavering presence, the feeling of safety. It's about trusting that someone won't just love you when it's exciting, but also when it's ordinary, when it's hard, when it's real. I had that with Ethan, and I let it go. Now I see him sometimes, just glimpses, A picture on social media, a mutual friend mentioning his name in passing. He looks happy, and I'm happy for him, even if it breaks me a little every time. Because he deserves someone who saw his worth the first time, someone who didn't need to lose him to appreciate him. And me. I've learned the hardest lesson of my life. That sometimes the thing you're searching for was right in front of you all along, and if you're not careful, you might lose it forever. So if you have someone in your life who is steady, who is kind, who makes you feel safe, hold on to them. Don't mistake stability for boredom. Don't take them for granted. Because once they're gone, no amount of excitement or unpredictability will ever fill the space they leave behind. And trust me, I know. What do you think? Was I right to walk away, or did I make the biggest mistake of my life? Let me know in the comments below. If you've ever taken someone for granted and regretted it, you're not alone. Subscribe for more stories like this, because sometimes the hardest lessons come from the mistakes we never thought we'd make. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.